Hi again. Welcome to Pearl Magazine. Climate change is topping global policy agendas, and Hong Kong is trying to meet the Paris Agreement's net zero carbon goal by 2050. The 42,000 buildings in our city account for 90% of electricity consumption and 30% of total greenhouse gas emissions. So the government is encouraging developers to build greener projects with incentives like extra floor area that could translate into billions of extra dollars if they incorporate sustainable elements. But as reporter Alice Kahn found out, environment groups say these so-called green buildings are actually operating in an environmental gray zone.
The storms are getting stronger. Just as it has been all over the world, Hong Kong is getting warmer over the last century.
If nature is not happy, it could cause you a lot of trouble.
Lam Choi-ying is the former director of Hong Kong Observatory. He's now the convener for a sustainability group, advising the government on the long-term strategy to reduce carbon emissions. He has blamed global warming for the extreme weather. This afternoon, Lam is doing a temperature experiment on this curtain wall.
37, 38 degrees. And if you're sitting here, it's very warm. Everyone has heard of the greenhouse effect. We are now exactly facing this problem in the buildings. Sunshine goes through glass, so enter into your building and warms up everything. It becomes an extra loading on the air conditioning.
In Hong Kong, buildings consume 90% of electricity and contribute 60% of the city's carbon dioxide emissions. More specifically, air conditioning and lighting contribute 30% of total greenhouse emissions, causing global warming. To mitigate climate change, the world has to keep the world average temperature rise within 1.5 degrees Celsius and to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, as stated in the Paris Agreement of 2016. The government has tried to mitigate the climate crisis starting a decade ago. One measure was to improve building energy efficiency. Since 2011, the government has offered a maximum 10% of extra gross floor area as an incentive to encourage developers to build green buildings. That amounts to billions of dollars in profits for companies that promise to go green. The prerequisite is to adopt the BEAM Plus assessments. The BEAM Plus assessment was first launched in 2010 by the Green Building Council. The assessed projects include new buildings, existing buildings, and interiors. The highest rating is platinum for buildings that reach a total score of 75% or above, followed by gold, silver, and bronze. Projects that are below the standard are marked as unclassified. The assessment covers 7 categories. Energy is the most important one when it comes to reducing carbon emissions, but it is only one part of the assessment. It also covers areas such as health and well-being, which have little to do with climate change. Carrie Chan of the Green Building Council insisted a higher-rated building has a higher energy efficiency than the baseline set by the Building Energy Code.
Platinum buildings usually is about 27% higher than the baseline performance, and for gold rating is about 22% higher than baseline rating. Therefore, platinum-rated building will save a lot of energy comparing to non-assessed buildings. In the past 10 years, we have achieved a reduction of 625,000 tons of carbon. So that is a very huge figure.
This is a new 48-floor office building in Taikoo Place. It was awarded a BEAM Plus Platinum rating. Raymond Yao is checking out the operation of this high-tech biodiesel tri-generation system. This system produces power, heat, and cooling at the same time.
In terms of power, constitute about 3.5% of the landlord power consumption of one Taikoo Place. And the design of this system comprises a power generator connected with biodiesel tanks. And next to us is the absorption chillers, which is used to produce the chill water, will be circulated to serve the air handling units of the buildings.
The system can only produce a small amount of power, about 11,000 kilowatt hours each month. Raymond installed a solar PV and green roof system, but this system produces even less power.
We got roughly about 280 square meter solar PV installed here. And underneath it is a green roof. This solar PV can only constitute roughly about 0.5% of the landlord's total power consumption on a yearly basis. So if we want to achieve higher, then it will be quite demanding, put it this way.
So the building still needs to rely on Hong Kong's power companies for most of its electricity. Raymond says the building is over a third more efficient than a regular commercial building. The building achieved a total score of 86 in the BEAM assessment, but its energy use did not achieve the highest score.
Even though you got the platinum, you only got 83, and actually lower, much lower than what you use.
83% already reflect the relative weighting that put as a focus point in the whole BEAM Plus consideration. One cannot just simply looking at energy use, how much decarbonize you achieve.
This office building achieved the BEAM Plus Provisional Platinum standard. The landlord did not disclose its specific energy use score, but it is not as high as one Taikoo Place.
We save 30% more energy. So that's equivalent to about lifting 200 cars off the road. So that's a big amount of carbon emissions reduction. That's about 1,000 tons of carbon each year. We deployed a number of measures, including using a more energy efficient chiller for air conditioning. Air conditioning typically makes up about 70% of a building's energy use.
Environmentalist Ho Ka Po checked the energy performance of this Kowloon Tong shopping mall's platinum grade. One way is to check whether the indoor air temperature complies with the energy-saving charter of 24 to 26 degrees Celsius.
We'll measure the public areas without any crowd or heat source like the lighting. We will not get close to the corners or walls to avoid mismeasurement. And for a large shopping mall like this, we'll take several samples per floor. In this shopping mall, we'll at least have 49 samples.
Ho is checking air temperature on the ground floor.
Indoor temperature is now 22.9 degrees Celsius, so it is almost the lowest point we have measured.
The temperature is about 23 degrees on the first floor. It was nearly 25 degrees on the top floor. After taking the temperature, she contended the building did not deserve its platinum grade.
The average is 23.6 degrees Celsius. It is a little bit lower than the energy saving charter.
We asked the landlord about the readings, and he said it always keeps the indoor temperature at 24 to 26 degrees. Next stop, this shopping mall in TST. The landlord claimed its building achieved a gold grade. The temperature outside is 29.7 degrees Celsius. The indoor air temperature is only at 22 degrees on the ground floor and first floor. It even dropped to around 20 degrees in some spots.
We have taken around 30 now, 30 spots right now, and the temperature is around 21 degrees Celsius.
After taking 65 samples in the mall, she doubts the mall deserves a gold rating.
Average indoor temperature is about 21.5 degrees Celsius. The staff inside were wearing long sleeves, and it reflects that the indoor temperature is really low inside, because for the operation hours, like reach up to 12 hours a day, the carbon emission is also huge.
New World Development replied in an email, "Air conditioning is only one of the many contributory factors that can affect the overall energy consumption of the premises. In fact, K11 Musea uses an efficient seawater-cooled, oil-free HVAC chiller system, which reduces annual energy consumption by over 12% compared to the baseline of the stringent US A-Share 90.1 standard." In another email, the developer said, "The temperature has been adjusted according to customer flow to ensure a pleasant experience. We will reference to the energy-saving principles." Actually, the Beam Plus's website shows it only achieved a lower grade, provisional silver. The developer also replied in an email about the grade. Regarding K11 Musea's Beam Plus certification, we have recently updated relevant communications based on the latest information and are going through the final assessment. Vincent Ho helps his clients do the assessment. He says the scheme is a design base.
Nobody can guarantee whether I can install one more light fitting, or I want to operate the air conditioning 24 hours a day. If we operate in that manner, you may end up in using more energy than the prediction. So that is just a paper exercise.
After the break, are vague environmental regulations and lax enforcement helping Hong Kong developers cash in on broken promises? Stay with us. Welcome back. Under current green building rules, developers do not need to pay back profits made from extra gross floor areas, even if they fail to deliver a low-carbon building. The government has promised to tighten building codes to keep developers in line with carbon reduction goals, but critics say Hong Kong's colorful building regulations are a long way from green. A prominent property developer built this residential project in Pak Fu Lam a few years ago. Under the Beam Plus program, the building's energy performance was measured to see if there are enough green features, so that the buildings department can allow the developer to sell floor area it got for free. The final rating was poor and categorized as unclassified, meaning it failed in all 7 aspects of the rating. But according to documents, the company received 9.91% extra gross floor area for free anyway. Extra area usually means developers must pay extra land premiums to the government.
It has a legitimate right and right to inflate by way of the GFA concession, even though this is a simple development, but it can still achieve the close to 10% cap, the maximum.
Vincent Ho said the developer included these inflated areas when they were sold to the buyers. The developer was allowed more than 1,200 square meters of extra space in total.
Those have been included, or the possible for inclusion into the saleable area portions. Basically, the balcony and some of the unit will have the utility platform. This balcony and the utility platform area have been included in the saleable area.
Miss Lin, an owner, has just received the key to her flat in this project. She has a balcony which she had to pay for. She says property developers should disclose information about GFA concessions and energy efficiency.
When you buy a flat, the most important thing is how much it costs, right? And the information about energy efficiency and that kind of stuff is usually not available to the buyer anyway. Hong Kong flat buyers must have that sort of information, but then the problem is Hong Kong's developers, they're so greedy, they probably don't want to let you know.
Currently, GFA concessions are not linked with the BEAM Plus rating. Surveyors say, all in all, even in unclassified projects, developers can still get the maximum 10% extra floor area in other ways, such as utility platforms, balconies, and clubhouses. Under existing arrangements, developers need to register with the Green Building Council to undertake new projects in the BEAM Plus program. Then the developer must submit their design to the buildings department so that it can approve GFA concessions regardless of the BEAM Plus assessment.
In order to get a certain GFA concessions, you need to do a list of things. You need to have a utility platform. You need to have a wider corridor.
If you have just simply get your building certified without a rating or get a very relatively low rating, you still get the 10% GFA concession. It's not fair for those who invest more and achieve a better.
Some developers will go ahead with the BEAM Plus assessment, but not everyone bothers. Data shows that very few BEAM Plus final assessments have been conducted once the development is finished. Since 2010, only 349 projects completed final assessment out of 1,432 projects registered. This building in Shim Sa Choi could not reach the final assessment stage, and it only achieved a provisional silver rating. Yet the developer was granted almost 10% of the GFA concession.
We found some vertical greening as well as a garden for the public to use. These are some good green features, but not really related to energy saving.
For developers, the BEAM Plus assessment is costly. The cost, depending on project size, ranges from more than $220,000 to $3.7 million. Vincent Ho says developers tend to see this as extra work that involves extra costs.
You have come back to the assessment of the system installed. So it involves people, involves time, and also you may have to restrict certain design flexibility.
Former lawmaker Lee Wing-tat monitors land use in the city. He says the government is too generous.
Usually for a medium to a big private development project, a medium project, you may talk about 5 billion from the money they put in to the whole project complete. For a big project, maybe go to 10 to 20 billion.
He says developers see BEAM Plus as an easy way to squeeze out extra profits.
10% profit, just doing some kind of green measure. You're talking about an extra amount of money of 1 billion profit in big projects. It's a very big step.
Academic Eddie Hoy has done a survey which shows green certified residential property prices are higher than standard residential buildings.
It's around 3 to 7% higher than the normal building without a green label, green building label. They also got 10% extra floor space, In the end, 10% plus another 5 or 7% is more than 10% actually, 70% maybe.
And landlords can charge higher rent with green certified commercial buildings, particularly in Central, Quarry Bay, and TST.
I think for a lot of large corporations and multinational companies, their sustainability agenda is incredibly important to them. So in terms of attracting the right talent, providing the right spaces for their employees, having a workspace that is within an asset that is more sustainable is something that's increasingly becoming important. If we look at Hong Kong, holding all other factors equal, building an asset that is sustainable and that has LEED Platinum or equivalent rating versus the same asset without that rating, the difference in premium can be up to about 20 Hong Kong dollars per square foot. Probably the premium between the different bands, it equates to on average about 7 Hong Kong dollars per square foot on average across the market.
The Development Bureau has tightened measures, requiring developers to achieve a specific rating under the BEAM Plus in order to apply for the GFA concession. If a project has a low rating, it must then include greenery, elderly-friendly facilities, and interior natural ventilation. The new measures will take effect middle of next year. But the government maintains the current uniform level of 10% cap for the GFA concessions. Professor Chow Chi Kwan of Hong Kong Polytechnic says developers will continue to find ways to earn a higher grade.
For example, management of the site or management of the waste. So what they do is they may just ask for a plan, a management plan for handling the waste. Then, of course, they involve a lot of resources related to that. Or you can just say, oh, I have a plan, then that's it. So it may have a very zero cost. No one can check that because on paper they fulfill that.
Professor Eddie Hoy reckons the government should follow Singapore's model.
Singapore seems to be quite prudent, or in a way that I said they have green or buildings. The maximum they're going to give away is only 2% or even smaller, 1% of the GFA the developer is going to build.
The Singapore government also requires developers to pay a deposit to ensure they build an energy-efficient building. Karen Ho of WWF says the government should take money back if developers fail to deliver what they promised.
The current mechanism does not ask the developer to pay back that 10%, right? But if you can change policy, I don't know, maybe they can add criteria or add conditions like if your building, when occupied, and then the real measure of the performance is not really meeting the original standard, maybe you can have a penalty clause.
That's our show for this week. Next time on Pearl Magazine, when summer vacation ends, what do you do when there's no school to go back to? And how the Corona consumer is buying in to online shopping. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.